Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to be showcasing Endpoint's 4-1 default on T side of Ancient. It's something that's very anti-meta because the current meta usually involves 2 or 3 players playing towards B and then fighting for lane control, whereas Endpoint barely does that at all in this half. It's very interesting, as I said, because it's not what the meta has been, and I think that it cost Endpoint a lot of their T-side rounds, but at the same time, they clearly have their protocols and their map control worked out from these defaults, so that's something that I think is worth looking at in this video. So this will be the first gun round right here, and the way it starts off is you have Endpoint going 4 towards A right here, and then you have one guy playing passive towards B. They secure A main control early, they make sure there's no pushes towards mid, and when they're ready, they go back, they throw some mid nades from here outside A, and then they just work mid control, and in this case they go house, B player rotates towards A, so it's going to be an A split with a house and donut lurk. It doesn't work out for them, but it was a cool idea. Alright, this is the next gun round. Once again, Boris is playing very passive towards B. NIP wanted to get B control, they get it. And in most cases, you would expect to be getting a fight right here, or for the T's to be coming lane at some point, but that will not happen at all in this round. Instead, what you'll see, Endpoint as always, they're going to get A control. Once they have the A main control, at the same time that they're showing some presence, they also throw some mid nades. They work out, but now you see the problem with this type of default, where when the CTs have full lane control, it's very easy for them to hold weird angles like this angle right here, or a guy from upper to fight as you're coming out of mid. So when you are working mid control in this case, you need to have a guy who's watching upper all the time. Next gun round, again we see Endpoint start 4 towards A. They secure A main control, they try to take space, it doesn't work out, so in this case the default's broken. Next gun round, they go for fast mid control. This is the first time we see a gun round where there are 2 guys towards lane. Next round, this is a low buy. Again, they play 4 towards A. They go instantly for mid control instead of A main control, and they still do not have lane control. And again, you see weird positions from the CT that punish them for that. Next gun round, again, we see a sort of 4-1 default, except this time Mighty Max is just throwing flashes from spawn, but we already saw that he had some interesting lineups that you could throw outside of A as well. So it's pretty much the same default, where they just go some faster mid control, and then they just hold this, and then they go back to mid control just to check if the CTs re-aggress, and they decide to go A off of that with Boris as a hard lurk from B. Next gun round, again, it's the same thing. A sort of mid-aggressive 4-1 default. Boris is playing passive towards lane. And the T's decide to go A off of that, so Boris just joins them, rotating back through T spawn. And then you have 2 guys from mid who lurk through donut, so it could be a really interesting A split right there. Next gun round, same thing. We see a 4-1 default. We see Endpoint work A main control. They show some presence. They're holding mid. However, this time Boris plays aggressive. He plays ahead of the CT smoke, and there's no way you win this fight with this many CTs who are trying to get a pick on you with no teammates to support you. So I think this is something that is a lesson that can be learned. That you can't play aggressive in this type of default towards B simply because you do not have enough people to trade out and enough nades to be thrown as presence. This kind of forces Endpoint's hand here to go towards A, and that does not work out for them. Next gun round, again, same thing, sort of mid-early 4-1 default. They get some mid control. When they smoke house, they can actually get more space in mid. And finally, we see them transition towards B control from this default. So here, the A player will rotate towards B. You have 2 players from mid who are going to start to contest cave. So they molly out here, they trade out. You have the 2 B players going up banana, and then they can just split B. And at the same time, you had one guy who is playing mid. Now, the reason this is kind of cool is you can keep your A player still towards A after you've taken A main control. So the CTs can't just hard flank the moment you transition into working cave control. Again, a 4-1 default. They get A main control early. Boris is playing passive. They transition to mid control. They push up into house. They throw a smoke here for speedway. And then they just start to work Donut here, A main and House at the same time, and just split A site with Boris as a hard lurk. Another option you could have here is that you could work lane control, and then Boris can actually join them in Donut instead of being a hard lurk who's coming from B. But nonetheless, this round still works out for them. Endpoint had a 5-10 T side. I think they'd lost a lot of T rounds simply because they lost the anti-force after the pistol they won. But the default is certainly interesting. I think it's very anti-meta, and I think that there are some things you can learn from this.